Welcome to day number 46 of the $1,000 account challenge, and we got a big one for you today. We are up $788 in the account, or 22.57% of the total portfolio balance, and I took one trade. So what was it? It was a super high quality setup on one stock, one trade, one opportunity that we held on longer looking for more profits because of the quality of setup. Straight off the day trade watch list, we had AMD as a long idea above 179.5. AMD did open above 179.5 at 180 and gave us a run all the way to new all-time highs at $187 plus. Now, I didn't catch the entire move here. If I did, I'd probably be up about 100% in the account, but we caught a piece of it. So let me break down the setup and why this was such a quality setup. On the daily chart time frame, AMD has been trading within this wider range, all right? Most recently, AMD gaps up to the top side of this range and rejects the resistance at $184, not once, but twice. This means that our profit target on AMD today, above $180, above the opening price, was $184. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. Price target was $184. Then we can see here that AMD has been holding this gap area as a point of support. Yes, it's been coming down, but it has not necessarily made a lower low below the initial pop move. So it's been validating this gap area as a point of support. Now let's move to the 5-minute time frame. We can see here circled and highlighted each lower high on AMD on the way down. Now if we draw a downtrend trend line across the tops of those peaks, and it's not necessarily touching perfectly every time, but we can see the price action high, lower high, lower high, lower high. This morning when we get a gap up, we are effectively breaking that cycle. We are breaking the cycle of lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high. And at the same time, if we drew a box around all of this price action on AMD, the majority of this price action at least, without regard to a couple of wicks here and there, AMD is also this morning breaking outside of this range. So AMD breaking outside of the range and AMD creating higher highs instead of lower highs means that the stock is ready to move directionally. All right. So super high quality setup here on AMD. This was talked about in my higher Spartan class as the top stock pick of the day this morning. It was talked about in my higher Spartan class earlier this week as a setup that's just ready to break out and run. It was talked about on my Instagram account to my subscribers as the top stock pick of the day. And we traded this live today in our pre-market talk before the market even opened. I told everybody that AMD was my top stock pick of the day. So the quality of setup being offered here led me to size up on this trade. Now let's get into the actual trade itself. Moving to the 1-minute time frame, we do get an opening run up. Okay, we're not going to chase that move up. For one, we're not trading in the first 5 minutes. For two, we are not chasing any sort of move. We get the rally up to the high of day, very close to 184 price target, remember, and then we get a pullback. Now this pullback or this consolidation, given the magnitude of this run up, is not necessarily enough of a pullback for me to want to take that entry. So what I told the team was I'm looking for an entry closer to $181. I think that would be a nice, so 181 right here, that would be a nice pullback spot because any further than that, it kind of retraces this full move, right? You don't want to see something rally up and then retrace the majority of that move or the full move back down. What that would mean is that that's more of a reversal rather than a dip buy opportunity. So we get the initial move up, we get the dip down here, and before I take my entry, I'm not bottom ticking this. I'm waiting to see if this candle is going to get bought up. The moment that I see this bottoming wick start to form, that's telling me that buyers are on the sidelines just like me, waiting for the first dip opportunity offered to get in at a low price or lower price on AMD before we run up to the high of day. So we do take this entry about halfway through this candle after we see the buyers start stepping in and ramping that price back up. Now we enter into a phase of consolidation. So what I told the team was, you know what, this kind of looks like a bull pennant formation where we've got these lower highs and something looking like a little bit of higher lows. I mean, not necessarily, but kind of, it's there. Regardless, it was consolidating, and I figured that a stop loss at just below our entry point at $181 made the most sense because it allowed us to mitigate our risk. You know, there was no need to wait on this to break down from this pattern super far and add into it at the trigger level at 180 or 179.5. At that point, the trade was not going to work for us. So we set the stop at 181. So our risk off level, let's just say halfway through this candle, looks like that. And the potential reward up to the high of day looks like that. So our reward looking like this, our risk looking like this. By the way, our stop loss was about 7% away from our entry price, and our price target being $184 was well above our entry price, about 50 or 60% away from that entry price, in fact. So we get the rally up, the breakout move, the rally up. I went ahead and secured some profits at about a 30% gain here. I held the majority of my position, looking for more. We get the rally up to the high of day. I take my profits at 40%, and I'm looking for the move to 184, my exact price target. I'm looking to take my profits at 70%. We just don't get that. The stock does kind of consolidate and pull back. My fear then at this time is that maybe 184 is going to act as a point of resistance, and we're not going to get that perfect touch of 184. So I went ahead and locked in the remainder of my profits on this dip just before the run up into the high of day. So in reality, I missed the majority of this extended move. However, I was able to lock in with larger size, on average about a 35% gain on this trade, which led me to a profit of nearly $800 on the day, or a 20%, over a 20% gain in the $1,000 account challenge. So the key takeaway from this video is to identify quality setups, high probability setups. And that is going to be different on a case-by-case basis, because what may be your quality setup or high probability setup may not be a setup that I necessarily excel on. So you need to go back through your journal, look at your trades, review your most winning trades, compile that data, find commonalities or similarities between those trades, and determine what is your A+ setup. That way, the next time that you see your setup forming and you know that historically you perform well on that setup, you size up, and that's where you're going to make your money. Okay, I hope that this video has helped you out. Thank you so much for your time. Press that like button for me if it has helped you, and consider subscribing to the YouTube channel. It's just the best way to support this type of work that I do, and it's free. Thank you again, and I will see you next week when we continue the $1,000 account challenge. Cheers.